What would you do if you walked into a room and found your spouse in a compromising position, but chose to play ignorant to unravel a deeper, darker secret? Dive into this gripping tale of deception, betrayal, and unexpected twists that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about love and loyalty. If you love stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, subscribe now for more thrilling narratives delivered straight to you. Pretending not to know her husband was with his personal secretary, she opened the office door with a practiced smile, her heels clicking softly on the polished hardwood floor. A tray of coffee and pastries balanced in her hands as if she were merely the doting wife stopping by for an impromptu visit. Evelyn had rehearsed this moment in her mind 100 times, ever since the late-night phone calls, the faint whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his suits, and the way his eyes darted away when she asked about his long hours at the office. She wasn't naive, far from it. But she wasn't ready to confront David yet, not until she had all the pieces of the puzzle. The office was dimly lit, the blinds half drawn, casting slanted shadows across the mahogany desk where David sat, his tie loosened, his arm draped casually around the back of his secretary, Claire, who was leaning far too close for a discussion about spreadsheets. Evelyn's heart thudded, but her face betrayed nothing. She set the tray down with a cheerful, "Surprise, darling! I thought you might need a break." David's eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing his face before he recovered, stammering something about a late meeting. Claire, with her sleek blonde hair and perfectly tailored skirt, offered a tight smile, her fingers lingering on a stack of papers as if to prove her presence was purely professional. Evelyn played along, her voice light, asking about their day, offering Claire a croissant, all while her eyes scanned the room for clues. A misplaced earring, a crumpled note, anything to confirm what she already suspected. She'd known for months that David was slipping away, but it wasn't just an affair she was after. There was something else, something bigger, hidden in the crevices of his meticulously curated life. The late-night calls weren't just to Claire. Evelyn had traced one to a burner phone, its number linked to a seedy motel on the edge of town. And then there were the bank statements she'd found tucked in his locked drawer. Withdrawals, large ones, to an account she didn't recognize. David wasn't just cheating, he was hiding something far more dangerous. As she chatted, her eyes caught a glint under the desk, a tiny flash drive, barely noticeable, wedged between the carpet and a leg of the furniture. Her pulse quickened. She needed that drive, but she couldn't let them see her interest. So she laughed, a little too loudly, and, accidentally, knocked over the coffee, sending a dark stream across the desk. "Oh, how clumsy of me!" she gasped, dropping to her knees to wipe it up, her fingers brushing the drive, slipping it into her sleeve as she stood. David was too busy mopping up papers to notice, and Claire's eyes were fixed on him. A mix of annoyance and something else, fear perhaps. Evelyn apologized profusely, promised to bring more coffee tomorrow, and left the office, her heart pounding not from the betrayal she'd witnessed, but from the weight of the drive in her pocket. Back home, she locked herself in the bathroom, the only place she felt safe from David's prying eyes, and plugged the drive into her laptop. What she found wasn't love letters or incriminating photos. It was worse. Files upon files of encrypted documents, financial records and emails, all pointing to a money laundering scheme tied to a shadowy organization she'd never heard of, the Syndicate. Names she didn't recognize, dates, transactions, and a single photo. A grainy image of David shaking hands with a man whose face was obscured, but whose jacket bore a distinctive red pin. Her stomach churned. David wasn't just unfaithful, he was entangled in something criminal, something that could destroy them both. But there was more, a folder labeled E, her initial. With trembling fingers she opened it, expecting evidence of his betrayal, but instead found surveillance photos of her at the grocery store, the gym, even sitting in her car outside their daughter's school. Her breath caught. They were watching her. David wasn't just hiding an affair, he was protecting her, or himself, from something far more sinister. The next morning, she played her part, kissing David goodbye as he left for work, her mind racing with questions. Who was the man with the red pin? Why was she being watched? And what did Claire know? She decided to dig deeper, tailing Claire after work to a rundown bar on the city's outskirts. Hiding in the shadows, Evelyn watched as Claire met a man, not David, but the same man from the photo, his red pin glinting under the neon lights. They argued, Claire's voice rising, something about the deal, and keeping her out of it. Evelyn's blood ran cold. They were talking about her. She slipped away before they spotted her, her mind spinning with possibilities. Was Claire an accomplice or a pawn? Was David protecting her from the Syndicate, or was he setting her up to take the fall? She needed answers, but confronting David would tip her hand. Instead, she planted a tiny tracker in his car, a trick she'd learned from a private investigator she'd hired months ago when her suspicions first began. The tracker led her to an abandoned warehouse 2 nights later, where David's car was parked alongside a black SUV. Peering through a grimy window, she saw him, Claire, and the man with the red pin, surrounded by crates stamped with unfamiliar symbols. Voices were low, but she caught fragments, something about a shipment, a deadline, and eliminating loose ends. Her heart stopped. Was she the loose end? Before she could process it, headlights swept across the lot, and she ducked behind a dumpster, her breath shallow. Another car pulled up, and out stepped a woman she recognized instantly, her sister, Leela, who'd been estranged for years after a falling out over their parents' estate. Leela, with her sharp eyes and sharper tongue, was handing the man with the red pin a briefcase. Evelyn's world tilted. Her sister involved in this? The betrayal cut deeper than David's infidelity. She stayed hidden, watching as the group dispersed, her mind a whirlwind of questions. Back home, she confronted Leela, who laughed bitterly, admitting she'd been pulled into the Syndicate years ago, blackmailed after a bad deal. David, it turned out, had been recruited to clean their money, using his accounting firm as a front. Leela swore she'd tried to keep Evelyn out of it, but the Syndicate had grown suspicious, believing Evelyn knew too much. The surveillance was their way of ensuring her silence. David's affair with Claire. A cover, Leela claimed, to keep Claire loyal while she fed information to the Syndicate. Evelyn didn't know what to believe, but one thing was clear: she was in danger. She could run, expose them, and risk everything, or play the game smarter. She chose the latter. For weeks she played the oblivious wife, slipping coded messages into David's files, feeding the Syndicate false leads through a burner phone she'd acquired. She hacked into Claire's email, planting subtle hints that Claire was double-crossing them. The tension in the office grew palpable. David grew paranoid, Claire jittery. Evelyn watched, waiting for the moment to strike. It came at a company gala, where the Syndicate's leader, a man known only as the Broker, was rumored to appear. Evelyn wore a red dress, bold and defiant, slipping the flash drive, now loaded with doctored evidence implicating Claire and the man with the red pin, into the Broker's coat pocket during a staged stumble. She whispered, "Check your pocket," before melting into the crowd. By morning, Claire was gone, the man with the red pin arrested, and David was a wreck, confessing to Evelyn in a tearful panic that he'd been in over his head, that he'd never meant for her to get hurt. She listened, her face a mask of sympathy, while inside she seethed, not at the affair but at the lies, the danger, the betrayal by her own family. She didn't tell him about the deal she'd struck with the Broker, trading the doctored drive for her freedom and a promise to keep her daughter safe. She didn't tell him she'd wired half their savings to an offshore account, or that she'd booked a one-way ticket to a new life. As David begged for forgiveness, she smiled, kissed his cheek, and said, "I need time." The next day she was gone, her daughter in tow, leaving behind a note. "You should have trusted me." Months later, sipping coffee in a small coastal town, Evelyn read the news. David's firm had collapsed, the Syndicate dismantled, and Leela was missing. She felt a pang of guilt, but it passed. She'd played their game and won, not by pretending to be ignorant, but by being smarter than they ever expected. The ocean stretched before her, vast and unyielding, a reminder that some secrets, like some loves, are better left behind